Hello and welcome to this tutorial for the latest version of Excel for the Mac. In this video we're going to start looking at creating calculations in Excel. And before I do that I want to explain where you will find some important things on the keyboard. And those are the equals key and the basic mathematical operators addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So first of all you need to locate the equals key, and you'll find that to the right hand side, the upper right hand side of the keyboard. In fact you'll find the addition symbol and the equals symbol on the same key, which is just above and to the left of the return key. To the left of the plus and equals key you will find the minus or subtraction key. The multiplication symbol you will find on the number 8 key, so Shift and 8 will give you the multiplication symbol. And for division it's on the right hand side but at the lower end of the keyboard. So if you look where the right hand side Shift key is, typically just to the left of that you will find the division key. It's on the same key with the question mark. If you have an extended keyboard with a separate number keypad, you'll find those keys equals, divide, multiply, subtract and addition located around the upper and right edge of that keypad. So with that covered, let's get started and create some calculations. I've set up a table here in Excel. I've just created this one myself. It's not actually built into Excel, just to illustrate some basic calculations. And you can see here we've got division, multiplication, addition and subtraction, the four basic mathematical operators. And we're going to create some calculations using the number 10, as you can see here. So the first thing you need to do when you create a calculation in Excel is very simply click in the cell where you want the result to appear. Now in this case it's cell F1, so I'm going to get the result for 10 divided by 10. To start the calculation I press the equals key. When I press the equals key I'm telling Excel that whatever follows will be part of a calculation. The next step is to simply click on the first value I'm going to include in the calculation. So I click on the value in C1. You'll notice the number doesn't go into the formula, the cell reference goes into the formula, and that's very important as we will see later. The next stage is to press the operator key, and that's the divide key on the keyboard. And then finally click on the second value for my calculation. That's the number in cell E1, and there's the formula. So it's equals C1 divided by E1. To confirm that I can either press the enter key, or what I'm going to do here is actually click on that little green tick to the left of the formula bar, and clicking that tick is similar to pressing the enter key, except that I remain in the cell where I created the calculation. So we can see the result in cell F1, and we can see the calculation now showing in the formula bar. So it's important to note that the formula will always show in the formula bar, but you'll find the result on the spreadsheet. Okay, so let's go on and create a second calculation. So click into F2 this time. So again, equals on the keyboard. Click on the first value. This time press the multiply symbol on the keyboard, which is the star sign. Then click on the second value, and again I'll click on that green tick to accept the result. And there we get the result. 10 multiplied by 10 is indeed 100. Click into the next cell down, which is F3 now. So remember, always click in the cell where you want the result to appear. Press equals to tell Excel that we're creating a calculation. Click on the first value, in this case the cell value in C3. It's an addition calculation, so I press the plus symbol on the keyboard, and finally the second value, in this case the value in cell E3. There's the formula, equals C3 plus E3. This time I'll press the enter key and we get the result there, as you can see, and do the final calculation. I'm sure you're getting the hang of it by now. So equals on the keyboard, click the first value, subtract on the keyboard, click the second value, and again I'll just click on the green tick this time to accept that result. 10 minus 10 equals 0, and remember again the formula bar will always show you the calculation related to that cell the spreadsheet shows the result. Now remember I said it's important to use the cell references when creating calculations, and I'm going to illustrate why that's important now. So if we go back to that first calculation in cell F1, and I'm going to recreate that formula but use numbers instead of cell references, and we'll see what the difference is. So if I press delete first of all to remove that calculation, and again start with equals on the keyboard, but this time I'm just going to type out the number, so equals 10, again on the keyboard divide and type out 10. So instead of cell references we have numbers. I'll click on the tick so you can see the formula bar shows equals 10 divided by 10. The cell result is good, so we get 1, which is the correct result. But what happens if either of these two values is changed? So let's say that first value gets changed to 20 as part of some updates. So enter the number 20, press the enter key, and now we have the wrong result on the spreadsheet. So 20 divided by 10 should be 2, not 1. So that's the value of using the cell references. So let me change that back to the formula that it should be. So if I click in that cell again, F1, let's start again, equals on the keyboard. This time let's click on the cell reference, divide on the keyboard, and again click on the second value. I'll click on the tick to accept that, and now we get the correct result. You can see the formula again in the formula bar. And now if somebody updates that value, let's say it's updated again to maybe 40, press the enter key, and you see immediately the result updates to show the correct value. So that's something to keep in mind when you're creating your calculations. Remember to click on the values that you're using rather than type out the numbers. Let's go to another set of examples then, just to reinforce what you've seen there. So we have some simple calculations here for addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, and I'm going to go through each of these and create the appropriate calculation. So here we have some sales receipts in addition, and I obviously need to add these figures up. So I'm going to click in the cell I want the result to appear in. So to begin, it's equals on the keyboard. I'm going to click on the first value, press plus on the keyboard, click the second value, press plus again on the keyboard, and click the third value. You'll notice, by the way, as I highlight each value by clicking, Excel assigns a colour, so the formula is colour coded, which is useful sometimes for looking back at the numbers that are linked to the formula. So there's my completed calculation. All I need to do now is click on the tick to accept that, and we'll get the result 290. And always remember, you can check the formula in the formula bar. We'll see later on how adding up long lists of numbers can be done using a different method in Excel, which saves a lot of time. But just for now, let's move on and look at this subtraction calculation. So again, click into the cell where you want the result to appear, which in this case is E7. Type equals on the keyboard. Let's click on that first value. This time it's subtract on the keyboard to tell Excel the type of calculation. And then click in this case on the discount value in cell E5. Click on that tick, and there we get the correct result. And of course, remember that anytime these values are updated, for example, if this retail price goes to 250, you'll see the result change as I update the values. That's the benefit of using those cell references. For the multiplication calculation, I'm going to click into cell H7, where I want the result to appear. Equals on the keyboard. Click on the litres of fuel value in H4. Press multiply on the keyboard, and then click on the second value, the cost per litre. And again, just click on the tick to accept that, and there we see the result. And finally, the division calculation, click in the cell where I want the result to appear. Equals on the keyboard, click on, in this case, the prize money total, and then divide on the keyboard, click on the number of winners in cell K5. So there we see the formula equals K4 divided by K5. Click on the tick, and there we have the result. And finally in this video, I'm going to return to that spreadsheet I started to create in the second video. And if I click on the window menu, you'll see I've got my Fred's Movie Classics spreadsheet already open. And I'm going to create the calculations for the revenue column. So let's first of all click into cell D4, where I want my first result to appear. So as we know by now, it's equals on the keyboard. I'm going to click on the rental price first of all, and it's going to be multiply on the keyboard, and then click on the rentals quantity. I'll just press the enter key, and I'll just use the arrow key to go back and look at that result again. So 25 is the result, and again formula bar shows me equals B4 multiply by C4, and we know now that the benefit of that is, should either of these values change, for example if my rentals goes up to 12, so if I change that value, press the enter key, you'll see immediately my revenue figure updates. So let's do that one more time. So if I click into cell D5, equals on the keyboard, I'm going to click on the first value, multiply on the keyboard, click the second value, and again in this case I'll click on the tick to accept, and you can see the result again there. Now I could go on and do the same thing for the remaining cells, but I'm going to show you a much better way of completing all the calculations, a very quick way. First of all, I'm just going to select both those cells and delete what I've already created. Click back into cell D4 and we'll start again, and I'll do it much more quickly this time. So equals on the keyboard, click the first value, multiply on the keyboard, click the second value. I'm going to click on the tick, and this time I'm going to put the mouse pointer on the bottom right of that cell. You'll notice that the cell pointer changes from a white cross to a black cross. When you see that black cross, you can click and drag down the remaining cells. Once you can see that highlighter, that boundary covering all the cells you want to be completed, release the mouse button and all the calculations are populated in those cells automatically. Now the great thing about doing this is that Excel will automatically update the row value as you go down. So for example, if we click into our first calculation, take a look in the formula bar, you'll see it's referring to row 4. If I click the next cell, it's referring to row 5, next one down is 6, and so on. So Excel automatically updates the calculation as you copy that formula down. It's a thing called relative cell referencing, very useful, and it's something we'll look at again in future tutorials. Now one little trick I'll show you before I close is I'm going to delete all the results from D4 down to D10. Just press the delete key, and so there's my only calculation there. And another way of actually completing that is to simply put the mouse pointer at the bottom right of the cell again, and this time double click, and double clicking does the same thing as clicking and dragging, but it does it much more quickly. I'll click back onto my title there to deselect, click on the save button to update my saved file. So that completes this first look at creating calculations in Excel. I hope you found the process fairly simple and you'll be able to apply what you've learnt here to the spreadsheets that you're working on. But in the meantime, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.